walk away so you won't see, cause the pain is in my eyes. Feels like I could break it any moment and shatter your insides. If you feel my mind, call me all night long. Try to give you hints in the heart.
Charged in connection with the disappearance of her 5-year-old daughter. Brianna Williams called police in November to report her 5-year-old daughter, Taylor Rose, had been abducted.
And Taylor's remains were found about a week later in rural Alabama near her mother's hometown. Williams was arrested and charged with 2 counts of child neglect and giving false information to police. She remains in the Duval County Jail on close watch after a suicide attempt the same day police went to arrest her. Now, prosecutors have released a list of evidence that they could bring up in court, and News4Jax reporter Vic Michelucci has that list. He's breaking it down for us as he's joining us live from the state attorney's office. Vic.
And Mary, we are talking about thousands of pieces of evidence in that case against Brianna Williams. Prosecutors used subpoenas to get her cell phone records, her internet search history, even some records from Uber and Lyft. All of this, they hope, will piece together details about what happened to Taylor Rose and who's responsible. Prosecutors have provided a massive amount of discovery material to Brianna Williams' defense team, evidence that could appear in court. That includes Williams' initial 911 call to report her daughter, Taylor Rose, missing, claiming she was abducted, 2 recorded interviews with JSO after, her DNA report, and Taylor's autopsy after the little girl's remains were found in Alabama about a week later. We can see that investigators have thousands of pieces of evidence, nearly 4,000 crime scene photos, dozens of videos of Brianna in her car on base at NAS Jacksonville and in Alabama, near the spot where police found Taylor's body. Phone records are key, the state sending subpoenas to cell phone companies, as well as Google, Apple's iCloud, and Match.com, a dating site, each potentially piecing together where Brianna was, what she searched for, and who she talked to. Prosecutors also have Uber and Lyft records, her Navy records, including when she accessed the base, and surveillance from stores in Jacksonville, Georgia, and Alabama. Evidence that could be difficult for her defense team to explain.
Do you think that they're going to be able to use that evidence to prove that her statements were not true?
If she lied, they're going to be able to find that with this documentation, yes.
Karen Smith is a former JSO crime scene detective and now a forensics analyst in LA. She says prosecutors have the burden of proof, but also a lot of avenues to build their case.
We're in 2020 now. The sheer amount of evidence, computer scientific evidence, cell phones, computers, social media, things like that, has changed the way investigations are done exponentially.
So from that list, prosecutors are going to have to give over those documents and the evidence to the defense team for Brianna Williams, but that could take some time because of just how much they have potentially months from now until we actually see it. Now, because it is a public record, once it is given over to the defense team, we in the public are able to see it. So News4Jax has requested those documents as well. As soon as we get them, we will pass them along to you. We are live downtown outside the state attorney's office. I'm Vic Michelucci, Channel 4, the local station.
So, Vic, will Brianna Williams ever face murder charges?
Mary, that's a question that so many people have. Investigators say they are working very meticulously to build their case, and they want to make sure that they know exactly what they are getting into. Right now, it appears they don't have enough evidence to charge her with murder, but there's no statute of limitations with murder here in the state of Florida, so that means they could charge her at any time in her lifetime if they do find evidence pointing to the fact that they think they can get a conviction for murder. So right now, we're going to have to wait and see. Brianna Williams only charged with child neglect and a few other things, but those could be upgraded to murder if prosecutors feel they have a case that they want to build against her for that.
All right, Vic Michelucci reporting to us live. Thank you, Vic. Breaking news this afternoon, more charges have been filed against Brianna Williams. Now, she is the mother of 5-year-old Taylor Williams, the little girl who was the subject of an Amber Alert and then a massive search last year, only to be found dead in Alabama. Her mother was initially charged with 3 felonies, 2 counts of child neglect and 1 count of lying to law enforcement. But now, Brianna has been charged with child abuse and tampering with evidence. So this comes after a large amount of discovery was released in the case last week, including details on the deplorable living conditions inside their Southside apartment and video of Brianna that was taken as she was overdosing and during a suicide attempt. Now, Renata DiGregorio joins us live from outside the Duval County Courthouse. She has more. Katie, the words willfully torture and maliciously punish are how this new charge of aggravated child abuse is defined. Now, these are much harsher words, stronger words that carry a harsher punishment here than what she's previously been charged with. We also have on this court document transport of human remains, and that has to do with her other new charge of tampering with evidence. Still, so far, though, no charges directly linked to little Taylor's death. First Coast News crime analyst Mark Bachman says that's most likely because investigators are waiting on the medical examiner's report. It's also possible they are having trouble finding direct physical evidence linking Williams to her daughter's death. We still don't know how little 5-year-old Taylor died. She went missing in November and was found dead 6 days later in the woods in Alabama. Roughly 100 pages of documents released last week paint an incredibly grim picture of how her life could have been. The documents also show investigators found cans of soup with holes in the lids and feces and urine inside the closets. This after sources told us in November that Taylor was forced to stay inside the closets of their apartment and was left cans of soup to eat. The documents also state detectives and a cadaver dog smelled decomposition coming from Williams's car and from her Southside apartment. They called the smell of feces and urine overwhelming, and Williams's case was passed to the end of March until she's back here because her defense wanted some more time to go over things. She pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of child neglect and to lying to law enforcement officers. Reporting live outside the courthouse, Renata DiGregorio, First Coast News, on your side. We are learning more about what the woman at the center of a death investigation told her co-workers about her little girl.
Brianna Williams is the mother of 5-year-old Taylor Rose Williams, found dead in the woods of Alabama 6 days after her mother reported her missing in November.
Williams has not been charged in the girl's death, but she's in jail charged with child neglect, lying to investigators, and the newest charge that just came out, aggravated child abuse.
On your side's Kaylee Tracy spoke with someone who worked with Williams for nearly 2 years at NES Jacks, where she was a sailor. He says never once did Williams mention Taylor.
I'm like, wait, she had a kid? I'm like, what?
Paul Fenn worked with Brianna Williams at NES Jacks for 2 years. Never once, he says, did she mention she had a daughter.
It's just so eerie. She, after 2 years worth of time, I never even knew she had a child until it came out in the news.
Miss Williams has been arrested for the felonies of child neglect as well as making false statements during this investigation.
It was just jaw-dropping. It's kind of like when you learn that a friend close to you or that you just know in general has died.
He says some of her instructors and the equipment she used was in his office, so Williams and others would come in for extra training. He says Williams was cordial enough, but looking back, he sees one red flag.
She started inquiring about just getting a weapon. She had said that she was looking for a weapon for target practice, specifically an AR.
Fenn says she went on to buy an AR and a shotgun. Firearms and ammunition were among the evidence collected by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
I guess if sharing your child with others is a direct reflection of how much love you have involved, how much time and effort you put into something, you want to show it, but she didn't show anything.
Kaylee Tracy, First Coast News, on your side.
Disturbing evidence just released in the case of this Jacksonville mom. Video shows Brianna Williams being interviewed by police about her 5-year-old daughter's death moments before the Navy chief was hospitalized for an overdose.
We've also learned investigators say they were hit with the scent of decay when they went to the Southside apartment last November where Taylor Williams and her mother used to live.
That new information was all revealed in documents released by the state attorney's office today. as Brianna Williams was back in court.
She remains locked up on charges of child neglect and lying to police. No one is charged with murder in the death of Taylor Williams. The little girl's remains were found in a wooded area of Linden, Alabama, near the community where Brianna Williams grew up.
News4 Jax reporter Janice Harris has been covering this case since the day the child was first reported missing. Janice, what have you learned about how investigators found the child's remains?
Tom and Mary, so many disturbing details, but we discovered today that global positioning system, also known as GPS, was very critical in them locating the remains of that precious little 5-year-old girl. Brianna Williams is seen here wearing her Navy uniform, riding as a passenger in a car on base. She knows police are investigating her for her daughter's disappearance. Williams has secretly drank an unknown substance before getting in this car. She's trying to kill herself when her body goes into shock.
Come on. You ain't yelling on me like that. Come on. Shot, man. You gotta get her in. All right, go get help. Yeah. Get help. Come here. Hey, Brianna, can you hear me?
Minutes later, she will be airlifted to UF Health and charged with child neglect of her 5-year-old daughter and lying to police about the investigation. Police knew Williams was lying to them after she reported her child missing. According to these documents, the 27-year-old mother claimed Taylor Williams was staying with her grandparents, but the grandparents said they had not seen the child. More evidence. GPS showed Brianna Williams in the Linden, Alabama area between October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd. Brianna had gotten time off from work at NAS Jax from October 30th to November 5th, and she told her commanding officer she was taking Taylor to her parents' house in Alabama. When JSO confronted Brianna with that information, that's when she stopped talking. JSO and JFRD traveled to Alabama to help search for the child. Taylor Williams' remains were found between Linden and Demopolis, Alabama, a discovery that may not have been possible without GPS. And very disturbing details there. Also, Brianna Williams will be back in court on March 24th. Reporting live from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Janice Harris, Channel 4, the local station.
Janice, we know police recovered evidence from Brianna Williams' home and from her car. Have any specifics been released in these documents today?
And all of those things very disturbing. So there was listed in the car that there was feces that was found, the things that labeled toward the decomposition. Also, there was sex toys that were found in the car as well. Many unusual things that were found in this car. At some point, hopefully during the trial, we'll get more answers about this investigation that links all of these pieces together and how that child died.
Janice Harris reporting live from downtown. Thank you, Janice.